The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. We're talking brand new, sparkly rookies coming into the major leagues. We're also going to be joined by Brent Radliski of the 1420 Podcast to talk opening day. And we're going to give you some great fantasy advice heading into the new season. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show.
Play ball!
Welcome in to a new edition of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show, presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com, Righteous Felon Jerky, and brand new to the show, Mahler Brothers as well. I'm your host, Vince Stover, and I am joined today, as I am almost always, by the senior fantasy baseball writer for BellyUpFantasySports.com, Kevin Wilson. Kevin, welcome back, man. How you doing?
Well, we're doing good. I was reading just this morning that this is the last weekend without baseball for the next 7 months. And just about a half hour ago, we just got done watching the final four team go, and it went down to the wire. And so I like anybody that raised their hand that's got any of these four teams in their final four bracket, because this is the first year I have 0 teams in my final four. And so it's an exciting time, and I'm really getting ready for the season, and it's a good time.
It is a good time. We want to say hello to our live viewers watching on the Sports Stove YouTube page or the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page, and all those listening later in your podcast found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And Kevin, we've got so much to talk about, so let's get right into our first topic in the Fantasy Burner. All right, our Fantasy Burner topic today is these bright and shiny rookies. News broke yesterday or today. Anthony Volpe with the Yankees, Jordan Walker with the Cardinals, Oscar Colas with the White Sox, all making their opening day rosters. Volpe winning the starting shortstop job, a surprise there, no doubt. Jordan Walker's never seen AAA, and he gets the start in large part due to the World Baseball Classic. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then Oscar Colas getting the call in Chicago as well, adding to that young nucleus of outfielders and kicking Gavin Sheets to the bench as well. So let's start with this one, Kevin. Who do you like the best fantasy-wise out of these three guys? All of them should get opportunity. Which one do you think will take advantage of that opportunity?
Well, if you're going to be the starting shortstop for the New York Yankees, that is something that you're going to have to sit up and take notice. And because they've got, of course, their lineup over there. And I just wish that he was playing a different position, given how deep shortstop is in Major League, in fantasy and Major League Baseball. But out of these three guys, he's going to absolutely be in their lineup every day. He's going to have a set place, and so I'm very excited to see, because I had read earlier that he was going to might make the opening day roster, but maybe not be a starter. But he is a starter, in fact, for the Yankees, and Kiner Falefa head to the bench. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot right now. He's projected to bat towards the bottom of the lineup. That can change, of course, with a lot of different things. And he's an interesting one. To me, he's gotten the most hype, being that he's a Yankees guy. We could talk about him with Brent in a little bit as well. And so he's being hyped up a lot because he's in New York. It makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Jordan Walker, who's a huge dude, by the way, 6'5", 220, I think.
And there's not a better baseball town you could possibly be in than St. Louis. And so he's going to get a lot of news going about him, seeing as how he's in St. Louis and all that. And
when you look at his opportunity, so coming into spring training, the thought is he'll play AAA this year because he hasn't played in AAA yet.
Right.
But World Baseball Classic took 2 starting outfielders for St. Louis to go play in the World Baseball Classic, which gave Jordan Walker all kinds of at-bats. He started off incredibly hot, He got injured, came back, wasn't as great, but still good. He did enough to say that he belonged in the majors, and he's going to get an opportunity. Now, again, on ESPN right now and on most fantasy sites, he's listed as third base because that's
third base, and that's not happening.
Yeah,
in
Nolan
St. Louis.
Arenado, some guy, I don't know. He's been around for a little bit, played
He's
maybe.
been around, and it's not like he's going
Yeah.
to shift across the diamond and play first base because they've got a guy over there, by the name of Goldschmidt, who happens to be the defending MVP.
That's right.
So that's not going to happen. And as we talked, outfield, he's going to go to the outfield. So that makes me question about the other guy, Lars Nootbaar. And so he's going to get kicked to the curb, it looks like to me.
So the word is Walker's going to get the right field start, and St. Louis did a great job with understanding he wasn't going to be playing third base anytime soon in St. Louis. So last year began working him at right field, preparing him for that, and then again he won the job in spring training with the opportunity he had. And opportunity is everything, Kevin. If you got the opportunity,
that's right.
And then the other guy is Oscar Colas, who goes into the White Sox outfield. This will allow them to play Eloy Jimenez at designated hitter most of the time.
Which is where he needs to be so that he's not going to get hurt, hopefully.
Right. And then Gavin Sheets is the other guy that gets left out here, going to the bench. Now, he might still be able to force some playing time, earn some playing time, whatever it may be. But the White Sox have been pretty open with allowing the young guys to come up. And honestly, Kevin, that's brand new in Major League Baseball.
It is, because remember all those before, like Chris Bryant and all of that, because they wouldn't bring him up, and so he missed out on his eligibility, for a year, and that was a big, huge thing. Even last year, year before. So I guess they're not worried about that anymore.
Yeah, I feel like Tatis was a big one there too that came up earlier than he could. I think it was Tatis. I can't remember now, but it definitely opened the door. And now other teams are saying, you know what? Why not have this guy on the major league field at age 22 versus wait until 24 or whatever?
Right.
Maybe guys are different ways, where they get drafted and everything.
And, especially if they're going to be in the everyday lineup. Let's get them. Let's get them going.
Yeah.
And if you're in the everyday lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals, they're not doing that because they need. You know what I mean? They're a playoff caliber team, and so if he's on that team, he is a good player by definition.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that one. Now, when you're looking at these guys, you may have already answered this when you were talking about Volpe earlier, but out of those three, which one are you more interested in having on your roster?
My answer would certainly be Volpe, but as I mentioned, since he plays shortstop, then there's not a lot of guys that probably have a need on their roster for a shortstop at this point in the season. And the other two guys are outfielders, and outfield kind of craters a little bit once we get to the point at the end of the draft. So if they're on your waiver wire, go ahead and add these guys, either one of them.
Yeah.
To me. And Walker, he's got the buzz, so I'm going to give him, and he's playing for the much better team, so I'm going to go with Walker as my guy.
So Walker at the moment is slotted in as the main DH, which means Dylan Carlson still holds his right field spot. Lars Nootbaar in center field, in left field, Tyler O'Neill in center field. And I think there's a lot of potential there. But I'll tell you what, fantasy value-wise, I'm going to go with the guy you didn't talk about as much, and Oscar Colas. I think the opportunity for him, there's going to be less pressure and possibly a longer leash with him than what the other guys are going to see. Because you remember Volpe, he's not the only young guy in New York.
No, they're all young guys out there now.
Yeah, and they got, Cabrera at shortstop, Oswaldo Cabrera.
And Vaughn, he hasn't been around very long.
Right, and that's true.
The new first baseman. And so, so there's a lot of young guys over there. And maybe you're right about that, because you don't have to produce right away on a team that has expectations. So maybe that would be the answer to the question.
And the other thing we always look at, Kevin, is value. And Oscar Colas is going to have a lot better value right now. People are going to go after Volpe very quickly. They're going to go after Walker as well very quickly. Colas is a guy people are going to go, well, that's a nice story, and then they're going to pass on him. So you can get Colas very, very cheap, and your value is going to be there with him. But I think, like you said, if they're available in your league, go get these guys. You want them on your team.
Our guys in our league are on the ball because
Yes,
none of these three are available.
That's right.
None of them.
Yep. I went to grab all three of them and ended up with Colas.
Volpe has the highest roster percentage at 16.8.
Yep.
But still, all three of them are rostered in our league, and it's only a 10-man league.
Yep.
So it's not like we got 20 guys or whatever that they're just grasping for straws.
Yep.
So heads up to our
Shiny
league.
toys available for your fantasy baseball league. Hey, Kevin, let's keep this thing moving. Let's get to our second segment, our call to the pin. It's time for our guest segment. We named our call to the pin. Call to the pin is presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. If you want the purest jerky in the game, you got to go straight to the source. Righteous Felon has partnered with the best natural black Angus beef producers in the land, and they locked up the supply and guarantee the best tasting, best textured, and freshest beef jerky on the market. Go to righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code BELLYUP. You're going to get 15% off your purchase, and check this out. Just came in this weekend. Teriyaki
Balboa. That when you posted it on your account, I was like, "Whoa, that looks good."
Soul Survivor, and then I warrior ordered my favorite Baby Blues barbecue as well. So I got 3 flavors here that I'm munching on here tonight from Righteous Felon. But let's bring in our guest of the day. He is Brent Radlitsky, the host of the 1420 podcast, and if you couldn't tell by seeing, a Yankees fan as well. Brent, thanks for joining the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm just figuring out how to get some of that Righteous Felon jerky up here in Canada. The stuff looks pretty good.
It is. I tell you, the texture. I'm a huge jerky guy. I grew up on venison jerky.
Oh yeah.
But I tell you what, the texture is phenomenal. And the Baby Blues barbecue is my favorite. But the Soul Survivor, it's a Korean barbecue. Oh, pretty solid. Pretty solid.
I like myself some jerky as well. How you doing tonight, guys?
Doing
great. So
let's talk about Volpe. Since you're here and a Yankees fan, the news comes in that he's going to not only be on the opening day roster, start at shortstop. What's your feelings on that?
You know what? I like it for a couple of things. The Yankees don't normally bring guys up this early in the season. They make them sit in the bullpen. They make them sit in the minor for a little bit. It's a long time since the Yankees have brought anybody up to start the season off, and it brings in some youth exuberance, I guess, is what's going to bring to this lineup. I think it's a smart move by the Yankees. It's not only just for the simple reason that he's a better player right now than IKF is, but it has that situation where you have a guy who wasn't there last year, and it gets the fan base thinking, okay, we're moving forward with this team a little bit, and we're not sitting there singing, okay, IKF, because no one liked him very much. And I think it's a smart move by the Yankees. It's a smart move by the front office to do this, and it can't hurt the team at all. There is a little situation where I think you're going to see Volpe. We'll find out that pinstripes are a little bit heavy, and it might be a little bit tough right now coming into a season because the Yankees expect to win every year, which they're not going to. But it might be a tough move, but I think it's a smart move by the front office and by the brass to have Volpe in there.
So what does that mean for the other roster? I haven't seen who's not making the opening day roster, and I didn't do a lot of research on that this afternoon either. But what's that going to sit like then for the rest of the roster? Does that mean Kiner Falefa is going to find his way off the team, or is he just going to hang out as that utility guy?
I think they might. I don't think there's a way they can possibly keep IKF on the roster. There's just no way. The 26th guy, and there's a lot of injuries that are inside and outside. Bader's out with the Yankees, and you have a situation here where IKF might be the odd man out no matter what. Yes, they have some injuries to their pitching staff to try to find a way. Maybe they'll try to find a trade partner for Kiner Falefa, because there are some arms in the Yankee system that are hurting a lot, and Bader's out as well. So I think that IKF is going to be a trade partner for some teams, but I don't know how you can trade a guy who didn't have a very good season. Everybody says they have these guys. Yeah, we trade him. We can trade him. But if you don't want him, why would anybody else want him? So I don't know what you're going to do with that.
So they were gonna. I don't know if did they actually put him in the outfield in spring training. I heard that's what they were going to do with him, and that must not have gone well.
They tried him in center field for a couple of games, and he basically was saying, and I'm paraphrasing him, it's a new position for me. And with the New York Yankees, you can't have a guy, a new position guy. You have you have wealth beyond belief that you can't just say, well, we'll try you here and try you there. That's not the way things work in Yankee land. You don't try players at positions when it comes to the New York Yankees. And I think with most teams, you can't be trying people when you're trying to win a World Series year in, year out. You don't try people at a position. And IKF, I think by making that statement, he's basically saying, I want out. Yeah, he said he wants to stay with the Yankees, but the writing is on the wall that he's see you later. It's time to go.
Time to go. Now, since February 21st of this year, Frankie Montas, arthroscopic shoulder surgery. Carlos Rodon, strained forearm, and Luis Severino, most recently, the strained lat. Those are three arms that you were hoping and expecting to have in the rotation that now leave you, it looks like, pretty thin. Now, granted, I don't know. I don't study the Yankees' depth at pitching very often, but it looks like that pitching rotation to start the season is probably a lot thinner than they were thinking it was going to be.
It's really bad. I was really hoping for a bounce back season for Severino. He's a guy that we've been hoping to go over the hump since 2017. My favorite Yankee team in recent history was 2017, but he has been struggling to stay healthy, and now with a lat injury, you just don't know what those things can go. Like when it's your arm, they can say this, but when it comes to backs and lats and the whole thing, you don't know when a guy can come back because those things can hurt for a long time, and you don't know how to diagnose that. And Severino was supposed to have a year this year where he was going to be the guy because he's in free agency this coming off season. He was going to put up big numbers for the Yankees throughout this season. And having Severino out, Montas, that has been a disaster since he got acquired last year from the Oakland
Days. So did
they
know he was hurt when they made that trade?
Kevin, it's funny you say that. I knew he was hurt. You knew he was hurt. Vince knew he was hurt. How Cashman and the rest of them didn't know he was hurt, I have no idea. How this is all turned out for
I was
the Yankees.
Hurt when they made this trade.
They knew he was hurt, and he hasn't pitched a game. He's not, and he's out until at least August, they say, and it's probably going to be longer. And then the Rodon signing, which was supposed to be the big one, 25 or 30 sheets a year, and he's not going to pitch until at least April or till May, they say. But with arms, you just never know, and it scares me a little bit as a Yankee fan. Opening days on Thursday with the San Francisco Giants coming to the Bronx, and you have a pitching staff that's not solid at all, and I personally expect Nestor Cortez to take a step back a little bit because there's no way you can trust it's only fifth year in the league, but a journeyman kind of guy. That pitching staff isn't as good as the money they're spending. That's my opinion.
Well, I'd agree with you. I mean,
Garrett Cole, no way around other conclusions.
Yeah. Cole is clearly an ace. I mean, he's one of the best in the league.
But even he goes through that, as we talked about. There's a certain stage of the season where all of a sudden things are not going his way, and then he pitches his way out of it, and then he winds up with the numbers he has. So.
Last year, Garrett Cole was the picture, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The poster boy for the spider tack, and they cracked down on it. And then he took a slump there, and that was never officially reported that was the issue, but he took a slump. But then he worked his way back and finished as a great fantasy pitcher.
I'm not your average Yankee guy. I'm not saying, like, I'm not a chase for 28 guy. I'm not this guy. Like I call them out year in, year out. And I don't think Cole's the guy. And I've never thought that for whatever reason. Maybe it's more of an eye test thing. And the stats are here, and he gets this many wins, and but for $35 million a year, I don't.
He doesn't deliver $35 million.
And I don't think the Yankees get the bang for their buck for their $35 million a year with Garrett Cole. I really don't. Right. I think there's a lot to leave behind with the guy. I don't trust him in a situation, especially with the short porch in the Bronx, where he does give up a lot of home runs. No matter where he plays, Garrett Cole gives up home runs. He's not that shutdown guy. I don't trust him to win a playoff game. I don't trust him to win a game. And maybe that's just being a I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but I don't think he's the guy to put the guys over the hump. You look back to 2009 when the Yankees brought in CC Sabathia, he was the guy. You could trust him to be the guy. I liked AJ Burnett coming from the Blue Jays back in the day. He was the guy, like up here in Canada, you see a lot of Blue Jays games, and Burnett was that kind of a guy. I don't think that Garrett Cole is even the same kind of a pitcher as AJ Burnett. I really don't. There's something that is not there. I don't think he's the stopper that the Yankees need. I just don't. I don't know how to pinpoint it, guys, but he just doesn't seem to be that kind of a guy.
Do the Yankees land either Shohei or Corbin Burns next year?
I think Shohei Ohtani will not. There's a reason why he didn't go there the first time. There's a reason why he decided on the West Coast and everything else. I think Shohei Ohtani ends up with a team like San Diego, who decided they tried to give they tried to give how much money to Aaron Judge, and Judge said no. And I think Shohei Ohtani just makes 60-70 million bucks a year over in San Diego. It's going, like what he did in the World Baseball Classic is going to be really. It was amazing to watch. We can talk on that in a second if you want to. But
Yeah.
what Ohtani did in that World Baseball Classic, and it's unprecedented. And what he's getting this year, $30 million bucks, is a bargain compared to what he should be getting paid this year compared to what other players make.
Yeah, so I think it was Dan Patrick that said this past week, he's like, he needs to get paid like two players. He's a pitcher and he's a hitter. So he needs to get paid 50 or 60 million a year. That's a lot of money, but someone's going to give it to him, right?
There won't be anybody who won't. Like, if you think about Seattle might be a team who does it, because if you think about it, like I hate to keep crapping on my alleged guy Garrett Cole, but he's he's just as good as Cole is, and he hits.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have a guy who's and you got to think Judge was offered 40-some million bucks a year by San Diego, and he said no, but at 40 million bucks and 40 million bucks, that's 80 million bucks. And that's not out of the realm of possibility for a guy like Shohei Ohtani, who will do nothing but bring people to the stadium, sell T-shirts, on and on and on.
Every game, they're either coming to watch him pitch or hit or both sometimes. So
yeah, it's something you haven't seen, and how he only got $30 million in arbitration. Maybe it surprised your arbiters a little bit. Like, we don't know what to give this guy because we have never seen it before.
Yeah. And that World Baseball Classic, not just for Ohtani, we talked about a little bit last week, but Randy Arozarena. Me and my dad talked about him on the Wednesday night show. The things that he did in the World Baseball Classic. Trey Turner, Mike Trout, both just kind of boosted their American love in that time as well. And it seems like baseball had a phenomenal year last year, a really good year the year before. Now they get this World Baseball Classic to introduce the season. So we're coming in with eyes on baseball. And that's something that's not normal, I don't feel like, at this time of year.
You know, Vince, I was talking about this with a friend of mine yesterday. We were talking about this thing. I was out in the ball field yesterday. I umpired a little bit, and he was saying that the way that this is bringing the game to not so much outsiders who never watch games, but people who only watch 5 to 10 games a year. The way that this World Baseball Classic and Randy Arozarena, like everybody talks about Ohtani, how great he was, and yes, he was. But the way Arozarena was signing autographs in the outfield, and the way he was when his poses when he got a double or whatever it happened to be, that was bringing more eyeballs. And this is fun. And the fun part of baseball, and I used to be, maybe you guys might be the same way I was a anti-bat flip guy. And I was, don't do this and don't do that, and respect the game. But the way this all brought things about, to me, it only made the game better. And the way the players embrace this World Baseball Classic compared to years in the past, when you have guys like Trey Turner saying the biggest hit he ever had was that grand slam, and he's played in World Series, and you had guys who were just so enthralled with this, and Mike Trout, which I'm not a big Trout guy, but the way Mike Trout saying this is the most fun he's ever had in baseball, Well, because you play in a bad team.
Well,
and you
he's made
and
the
you signed
playoffs
up for
once
that
in his
for the
career.
rest of your life.
Yeah.
But the way these guys were saying how great the World Baseball Classic was, and it was to a man. Like I said, I was anti bat flip guy, but the way that the Latin countries were Latin American countries were loving the game, and the way the crowds were doing it, and they weren't the stuffy baseball guys that we do have in Canada and the United States, where don't do this, don't do that. The World Baseball Classic made this game just so much better for everybody. And anybody who says anything bad about it, I think they're missing out, because there was nothing wrong with that exhibition of baseball. There was nothing wrong with it at all.
The only thing that I could say that's negative about the World Baseball Classic was, in America, you had to find FS1 to watch it. I don't know about up there in Canada, but in Japan, 90% of the TVs were on this game. So obviously they knew where the channel was to go and watch this thing. Over here in America, FS1, I couldn't tell you what channel that is. It's 600 and something.
Yeah, we had it on Sportsnet, which covers the Blue Jays. There's a whole thing there with how things are covered here in Canada and the Jays. Yeah. So it was fantastic.
That's the only negative thing I could think of, that America missed the boat.
Next World Baseball Classic, we just got to go to Canada and watch the games. Watch the games up there.
Channel 214. She's right there every time. No matter what.
Hey, opening day is this week, Thursday, and I believe for the first time in a long time, every single team is playing on opening day this year.
If you remember back in the day, it used to be the Cincinnati Reds played the first game every year, and they stopped doing that. And I think this is the first year ever.
I knew it was a long time. I couldn't remember if it was ever or not. Yeah,
I think it is ever, but every team plays on Thursday, every last one of them.
Yeah, and I love that, because I'll have my headphones in while I'm at work and listening to some Brewers baseball, having a good time back into baseball season. Brent, when you look at opening day this year, what do you think is the storyline for this season?
I think the storyline this year is what's going to happen with Shohei Ohtani, and will he finish the season with the California or with that's how old I am all of a sudden. California Angels, the Anaheim Angels, or the Los Angeles, whatever they call it.
Went to the stadium in Anaheim when they were the California Angels, so I'm with you on that.
I had an old one of those old the nacho bucket, the helmets they used to wear when you get them at a fair as a kid. But I think the thing is, will the Anaheim Angels keep Ohtani, and will he end up a Met? I think that is the biggest thing for me, because I think the Mets are posed to win a championship and win a championship soon. I think that Steve Cohen, as he said, I have $14 billion actual dollars, not that fake money that people talk about. He has actual $14 billion he's not afraid to spend. And if the Anaheim Angels or California, whatever you want to call them, when they're out of contention by day 3, by next Sunday, a week from right now, they're going to say we're done. Where's Ohtani going to go? Because they will get a big return for him, because MLB general managers, they love draft picks, and they love prospects, and I'm not exactly sure why, because championships are way cooler
first
than
overall
prospects.
pick, and he'll never make it to the major league.
Well,
that's exactly, and that's one thing I've never understood with general managers, and no matter
what sport you take the 30th overall pick, in the 30th round, and then he's an all-star.
Mike Piazza, you think about what he did, right?
Houston made it work to a degree when they tanked and rebuilt kind of younger, and of course they cheated to win, but nonetheless.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, there's that too. But let me ask you this, because I know you're an AL East. Well, let's start with AL East. Are the Blue Jays going to win this year, the pennant, or are they still behind the Yankees?
I like what the Jays have done a lot. They went and added some pitching, and they went and got Brandon Belt from San Francisco. They signed him. I like that move for the Jays a lot, because that disaster they had in the playoffs last season when they lost that game, they were up 8-1 or whatever it was, and losing that game to Seattle, losing in the wild card round. I like that they went out and got a guy who knows how to win a little bit, and they didn't pay him a lot. I mean, $9.1 million is a lot in my world. I don't know what you guys make off your podcast, but in that one, I like that move that the Jays have. and people they're going to hit more home runs this year because they are doing some renovations at the Rogers Center, so the bats are going to be more alive than they have been in the past. Rogers Center was hitter friendly beforehand anyways, but now even more so. They're bringing the fences in to improve the fan experience around Toronto. The Jays are right there. They're right there. They added some pitching. The Jays are a better team in my eyes than the New York Yankees right now, because the Yankees have a lot of question marks on the left side of the infield. I don't know if you can trust the president of Josh Donaldson fan club, who is Josh Donaldson,
No,
to do much. I don't like. I never liked that acquisition.
No.
Donaldson in 2017, absolutely. Donaldson 2016. Now he's getting up there in age. Great defense, but can't hit. The Yankees, with the injuries they have with their arms in the first month of the season, that's going to hurt, because the Yankees got off to a great start last year, and then they rolled the bat of Aaron Judge to win the division last year, 99 wins, I think it was. I don't see them replicating that. And somehow Tampa just keeps doing it year in, year out with their nickel and diming, and they have a great pitching staff, even better this year. I think Tampa's right there. Are the Yankees third? No. Are the Jays number one? Probably. So I think you have a Jays and Yankees kind of 1-2 thing in that division. It's going to be tough. Baltimore is a lot better, but now with how the divisions are split up, where everybody plays everybody all the time, you don't have to depend on interdivision as much. But I think that the Jays for sure are a better team. Guerrero is one of the best players in baseball, and he's going to hit a lot of home runs in that revamped Skydome, which I still call it the Skydome to this day. And you can't expect Aaron Judge to hit 62, because that's only happened once before.
Well, what would you say is about the medium for him coming in? 40, 45?
I think you're going to see Aaron Judge hit 45. And I think you're going to see Rizzo hit a few more this year as well. I think you'll have because he'll get a few more pitches to see this year. The Volpe, like we were talking earlier on, Volpe coming in, he depends how that goes. But I think you can see Judge take a step back, because hitting 62 is never going to happen for another 60 years. It took how many years for that to happen again? And like I said, they rolled the bat of Aaron Judge a lot in the second half of the season, because they did not have a good second half. They started off so great last year, and you can't expect that to happen ever again.
Brent, tell us about 1420 Sports Podcast. What's it all about?
The 1420 Sports Podcast was born out of COVID boredom back in 2020 is what happened down here in the basement. And I was sitting around, and my wife was talking about, you got to start doing something, man. Something's got to be sitting around doing nothing. And I had 4 beers in front of me and sitting there, and in Canada, we go by the metric system. So 355 times 4 is 1420. And that's how it all came about. So that's what 1420 is all about. And it's just me and a friend, we get together a couple times a week, and we just sit down like we're talking like in a sports bar, BSing about sports. And that's how it all came about back in the August of 2020. So it's a really simple thing. I wish there was a better story, Vince, but that's all it really is. And we BS about sports a couple times a week and have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, I won't lie and say I've caught every episode, but I have tuned in, and it's good stuff. I encourage people to go out and take a listen to it.
All right, absolutely do that.
It's not, let me see if I can word this the right way without upsetting people. Sometimes on Belly Up, there's 2 different kinds of shows on Belly Up. Some are a little off the wall, and some are a little bit more traditional sports talk. And Brent falls more towards the traditional side of things, and personally, I love that. So I enjoyed the show.
Yeah, I'm big on that as well. So.
Yeah. So
no, we're doing our best. We're growing every day. A lot of fun being had, and we're trying different things every day. And you throw enough crap in the wall, some sticks and some doesn't, right? The boys, right. And as you guys know. So thank you very much for having me on the show tonight. And it's been and we'll have to hook up and have you guys on our show later on throughout the baseball season.
Absolutely, just
awesome.
Thanks, on there. So.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, that's Brent Radlinski again from the 1420 Podcast. Before we go to our next segment, I want to let you know about a new sponsor on the show, Mahler Bros Golf. And you can find more information at mahlerbros.com and use that promo code BELLYUP to get your 15% discount as well. We all want to look good on the golf course, but it often comes at the expense of feeling good. Mahler Bros Golf has the polos that look good and feel good. With their lightweight and stretchy material that hugs your body, you feel cool while looking just as cool. Their polos are guaranteed to make you look better, but it's up to you to golf better. On a hot summer day on the golf course, there's no polo that you would rather wear than Mahler Bros signature polos. Mahler Bros Golf has a large catalog of polos with designs for those who want a loud design and others for those that want a subtle and sleek-looking design. They also have fun t-shirts, hats, tumblers, and so much more to make your golfing experience better. Use code BELLYUP at MahlerBros.com for 15% off your purchase. Kev, I just went golfing this week, Thursday. Had a blast, but I didn't look great doing it, so I need to get me some Mahler Bros Golf.
They definitely need to get on that and see if they have like a daily, collection over there.
Yeah, they got some loud ones. I've been on the website. They got some loud ones on there for sure. All right, let's get into our third segment of the day, our fantasy focus. Fantasy Focus is presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com, your number one stop for fantasy sports information. Again, BellyUpFantasySports.com, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, everything is there. You can even find Kevin's latest article or my latest article as well. All available.
That's your favorite. You can
yeah,
say
sure.
that.
Sure is my favorite. On BellyUpFantasySports.com. Make sure you go check it out. All right, we had our draft last week, Kevin.
Right, 1 week ago.
Heard it from a couple people that tuned in, listened to some of it and things like that, and got some feedback on it. And so I wanted to start this week by your favorite pick from your team that you landed in the draft that you thought, man, I wasn't sure I was going to get them, and I landed them. And every time I look at my roster, I go, I'm so thankful I got that guy. Who's that guy on your team?
Well, the guy that I got was – because you scared me in the second round when you were talking about I was going to take Machado. And I was like, no, Vince, don't do that. And but you passed on him. And so I landed him in the second round. I thought that's big. Third base, as we all know, is slim pickings after the first 6 or 7 guys. And so I landed him, and I was very glad about that. And because I had a definite plan, strategy when I was going into this draft, and that is in the first round at number 7, I was either going to go Judge, who went number 6, and I usually don't go a pitcher in the first round, but if Corbin Burns had been there, I would have done that because I was thinking in every single fantasy mock draft that I did in the third round, Paul Goldschmidt was there for me. And so I thought I didn't take Guerrero in the first round because I think that there are a lot of people down on Goldschmidt. I'm not getting in. I don't understand that. But I thought that their production would be pretty similar between Guerrero and Goldschmidt. And if I could get him in the third, that would be tremendous value. But as we all know, that, in fact, did not occur because he went off the board in the very first pick of the third round.
Right. And
so I was quite pleased with my first 2 picks. I took Mookie Betts at number 1, my first pick. And immediately you were like, oh, man, I wanted him.
Yeah.
But I was not going to take a first baseman in that first round simply because I thought Goldschmidt was going to be there. And so I took Mookie Betts, and I'm not buying that he's going to get second base eligibility. If he does, that's great. But he's a valuable guy.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So me getting Mookie Betts, I was happy with that. And then getting Machado in the second round, I was happy with that.
Yeah, good landing spots for both of those guys for sure. I look at my team, and I think probably the guy I'm the most excited about is Corbin Carroll with the Diamondbacks. He was a guy that I wanted going in, and I thought I may have waited too long for him. I got him at pick 110. And that's I think
excellent value there.
I agree. I think that one was a spot that looking back on at the end of the season, I think that's going to be one where you go, man, 110, that's a deal for Corbin Carroll. And then there's another guy, Kevin, that last year I was avoiding at all costs. I thought he was being overdrafted. So far, he's on both of my fantasy teams. I still have another draft going on this week. It's Starling Marte. He just continues to fall down these draft boards, and I'm sitting there picking guys, and I'm looking at my outfield going, I need an outfielder. I pick 131 this year, Starling Marte. And I got to tell you, I didn't go into the draft expecting to pick him because he's had some injury issues. He's getting older and different things. But there just comes a point in time where you go, my goodness, this is the right time for this guy.
And I would have, because I've got some pretty good outfielders. And so that was not my focus later on in the draft. If I would take Starling Marte and be happy about it. I had him a year ago, and I was very happy about it. Because as you said, this is a player that Kevin loved. Yeah. And he actually produced. And so how could you not like Starling Marte where you picked him?
Right. Let's talk about catchers for a second, Kev, because we talked about it before. You were a MJ Melendez fan, but you also liked some other guys there too. We both felt like it's a relatively deep position this year.
Absolutely. Deeper than it's ever been, maybe.
Yeah. And so in our league, I went with Adley Rutschman again. I like him. Okay. I like him having him on my team. I got him pick 71 in the draft. Who did you end up with at catcher?
I wound up with Tyler Stevenson.
That's right.
Because as you pointed out, I think wasn't it Nick that poached MJ Melendez from me. I think that's who it was.
Yeah.
And so, I feel pretty good about getting Stevenson because, let me see, I picked him at pick 187.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value there if he stays upright.
Yep.
And the only thing, I guess he's going to play some DH that they were saying, but he doesn't have DH yet. It's just catcher. So not that means a whole lot, but if he does DH, then he's going to stay in the lineup a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so then I took Danny Jansen at the last pick, and I am to this minute thinking, why did I do that? And so if Kevin, I'm going to make a move,
I wish I could rewind and listen to Kevin just yell at people who take two catchers. And you took Danny Jansen. My first thought was, first of all, I don't mind the pick because he's a good catcher. He's going to get,
but he's not the everyday catcher. That's
correct.
That's the thing that I still can't believe I did that, because they've got two everyday catchers up there in Toronto.
Yeah.
And so he's not going to be in the lineup every day. And so that's going to take up a roster spot that maybe I'm going to need for somebody else. I think I've got pretty much a good variety of players that, and there's no position like I've got two shortstops and that's it on my team, and Edman and Horner. I think that's pretty solid. But everywhere else, I've got 3 or 4 guys that can play each position, and so I got in trouble. I think I'm okay.
I got in trouble with that, Kevin, in the draft. I got Nolan Arenado early on as my third baseman, which is perfect. No big deal. Then I got Vinny Pasquantino as my first baseman. I went forever without getting another corner infielder. I ended up with Ty France later in the draft. Okay. But I got towards the end of the draft, and I thought, I don't have a second third baseman. If Arenado gets injured, if he sits out a game, I got nobody to put in that spot.
But he'll sit out maybe not a lot.
He's going to get some rest.
Games, know, but he's not a young kid anymore.
Right. So I picked 211. I went out and got Isaac Paredes. And some people kind of laughed at that pick. But Paredes, after Ji-Man Choi gets traded from Tampa, that opens up an everyday spot for Paredes at third base. He's going to start at least at third base. Now, he could lose that job if he doesn't play well. But he should get some everyday play. He had a decent year last year. He's a young kid with potential as well. But what about this guy? He ended up on my team in this draft. Did not get him in the other one. I was going to get him in my other league as well. But at pick 190, Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, it was 4 years ago. If you could say you have Bellinger, Yelich, and Stanton on your team, you're going, boy, that's an incredible outfield.
Right. That's an outfield that could average 35 plus homers.
Yeah. And I've got all 3 of them on my team this year. and nobody cares. But Giancarlo Stanton, he has fallen way down draft.
He has fallen way down, and I kind of understand because I had him last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a battle of whether or not he was going to play, not play, and and especially with this news about bringing up all these young guys for the Yankees, maybe they just put him at DH. Just put him at DH. He does not need to be in that outfield another second. And if they can do that and leave him out there in DH, maybe there's value there.
Maybe so. Now,
Maybe so.
I drafted a league on Friday night, and like I said, it's a keeper league. We keep 9 guys, so it's almost a dynasty kind of mentality. But in that league, I picked up Gunnar Henderson.
Okay,
my first pick that was in round 10. I ended up getting both MJ Melendez and Wilson Contreras on my team because I had no outfielders, and so Melendez is going to be playing outfield for me.
Right, that's a little bit different than having just 2 regular catchers on your staff because, as you mentioned, Melendez in the outfield.
Yeah,
and he'll retain that catcher eligibility, which you don't care about at this point in time.
Right,
but he'll be in the outfield, so I like that. And so
I actually got Corbin Carroll with my first pick, and I got Henderson with my second pick.
Those are 2 just dynamic young guys.
Yeah.
And especially if Gunnar Henderson can deliver, and then there's your third baseman that you're talking about that solves any kind of issues. Well, we don't have enough players at third or whatever else, but if he delivers, then all of a sudden that's a strong position. It's only he's going into. I don't even think he played a full year last year.
No, I don't think so.
Right? No, I don't think he did either. But so that's a young guy. Carroll, it's his first full year.
Yep.
And so those are 2 picks that you got to be really excited about if it's a keeper league. Yeah. Because
I go young.
Keep those guys.
Yeah, take my shot with the young guys in those keeper leagues to give an opportunity to keep them next year. Let's go back to our draft pitchers. I got Nola. I got Nola in the first. Well, he's technically second round. I had the turn there, the 10, and then turn into the second round as my first.
And the good news, Vince, on him is that they broke off negotiations. I don't know if you saw that or not. And so he's pitching for a new deal.
Yeah. You like that a lot.
I like that a lot because I had heard earlier that they were negotiating. And I'm like, well, if they come to a deal, then all the motivation tank is now empty.
Goes the wrong way. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so the negotiations are over, and so I really like that pick. A lot of people might question that he's the third pitcher coming off the board. I'm not questioning that at all.
Yeah, that's right where I had him slotted at. I would have taken Burns, of course, if I had the opportunity.
Both of us liked him a lot.
Yeah.
Both of us did.
I ended up with Woodruff. Woodruff's another guy I didn't plan on drafting. I like Woodruff. I think he's fun to cheer for. But when I look at fantasy stuff, I don't usually think of Woodruff as a great fantasy pitcher. But he's a plus 500 points guy in our league. And so that was my second pitcher. I got Lodolo, who I love. We talked about him before. Freddie Peralta, who I'm scared about, but a Milwaukee guy. I like him, cheer for him. Jesus Luzardo is a guy I got in both leagues as well. Marlins pitcher, who's been injured, but he's young. And if he's healthy, I mean, this is a guy that can sling the ball. So I was happy with Luzardo. What about your pitching staff? What do you like about your pitching staff?
For reasons that I'm still trying to figure out what I was up to, because I took Machado, as I talked about before, and then I lost all consciousness, I guess, and I took Austin Riley, which locks down third base like no other buddy's business. But the pitching staff, because I took Strider in the fourth, and there are guys that are not sold on him, and I'm not buying that for a second. This is a big, strong guy who struck out people like we haven't seen since Nolan Ryan's day. And so he's my number one pitcher, which I'm really happy about. But then I went ahead and I took Zach Gallen. He's my number 2 pitcher, and I see all kinds of issues coming down the road with him because he got bombed in his last spring training start, and he opens the season against the Dodgers on opening day, and so that's not a situation where that's not fantasy success starting against the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little leery about that. And then I was just taking guys that like Jeff Montgomery I have as a mid-round guy. And then I had Drew Rasmussen. I got him. And Jeffrey Springs, I got him. I'm not too sure about Ryan Presley. I took him as my relief pitcher for Houston. Maybe that was a little early on my part, but I got him. And then I got Sandoval at the end, then Perez, then Michael Kopech, which is a guy I think that's really going to do some things this year for the White Sox.
Yeah, I agree. Strider's a guy, I like Strider fine. I didn't want him as my first guy. Now maybe it works out for you. And Zach Gallen, I was going to take him around the same time that you took him. There is risk.
I took him because you didn't. That's what happened there.
There's risk. There's risk with him. And that's why I passed on him when I did. But had he been there the next time around, I would have taken him for sure. I like Gallen a lot if he can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy and if he could please keep the ball in the ballpark, that would be awesome.
Strider and Gallen together, I like for you. And then the rest of the guys are going to be, how do they turn out? What do they do? Do they stay healthy? Do they finish out the season? How do those guys play? You're kind of pitching with hope, kind of the same way that I'm hitting with hope. You're pitching with hope a little bit this year,
right? Because in the other league that I'm in, I went pitcher heavy earlier because in that league, I went into that with the same philosophy as I was going. I didn't get Paul Goldschmidt in the 3rd round in either draft. And so after getting him in every mock draft I was involved in, and so I went a little different on that. I got 3 guys that are starting on opening day in the other league. So I think that pitching is a lot better over there. And so I guess hitting better carry the day for me because, outfield, Betts, Mullins, Robert, that's solid. And Vaughn at outfield and first base. And they're still saying he's day-to-day, but he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then Simeon at second, that's solid. And
talking about Luis Reyes for Miami, of course, he was the big addition for Miami this year.
There's got a lot of opinions on him.
Pick 74. In another league, I got him at pick 147. Now that's a categories league. The other league is. This is a point league, so there's some difference there. But I don't think there's 70 picks difference between categories and point league. I was surprised he was still around.
I noticed that there's a huge difference when you take in not only on let's say ESPN and Yahoo. There's a huge gulf of separation when we're talking about players, talking about fantasy pros, and so there's a lot of guys because you got Trey Turner at number 10, and there's a lot of guys that saying take him in the 1st round or very first pick.
Yeah.
So you just have to listen to yourself. Sure. I guess, and especially if, like we've said many times, you have to know what kind of league you're in because cats is not the same as points, and what's the composition of the league? Do you have middle infielders? Do you have all these different positions, which our league does?
Yeah,
and it does have a DH and a utility position.
Yeah,
so a lot of leagues don't have that. Yeah, so you have to know what you're getting yourself into before you get into it.
100%. Now we got opening day on Thursday. World Baseball Classic just wrapped up. Is there going to be an impact, positive or negative, for the players that played in World Baseball Classic? Will it help them start fast, or do you think there will be a drop off coming off of that high energy World Baseball Classic into baseball season.
I think a lot of that, because I listened to what you and your dad were talking about the other day, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the individual player.
Sure.
And so and baseball is kind of funny in that if you're playing baseball, it's baseball,
Mhm.
right? So at spring training, a 95-mile-an-hour fastball is the exact same that you're going to get in the World Baseball Classic or the All-Star Game or the World Series. You're playing baseball. And so that's why the All-Star Game of baseball is far superior in every possible way than all them other sports. You can add them all together and they don't come up to the baseball, because all them other sports are not what they are during the regular season, whether you're talking about NBA,
Sure.
NHL,
Yeah.
NFL, certainly, because they don't even play a football game anymore at the Pro Bowl. So I think that a lot of guys that they're established major leaguers probably got more at bat because of the World Baseball Classic, because of spring training. It's all about different agendas, and it's, you know, getting all the guys. You got 40 guys that are on your roster plus all these other people, and you may not get the at bats,
Sure.
right? And you're
Yeah.
not facing the guy who's number 67 on the Baltimore Orioles, let's just say. You're facing a guy who's probably going to be on somebody's major league roster in every at bat almost,
Yeah.
especially when you got down towards the end where, you know, you had the final 4 teams and all that. And so I think that those guys are they're all established major league players. So I don't see a whole lot of, maybe Randy Arozarena, you mentioned him.
Mhm.
And he might be a guy that you might want to make sure he doesn't fall off the emotional mountainside, because he's still a young player, even though he's been around a couple of years.
Yeah. I think it's going to be mostly positive. I think guys are
Yeah.
going to come in fresh. I mean, not fresh, but they're going to come in ready, versus some of the guys who just spent time in spring training. Although some of these guys that have been raking in spring training, but I think the momentum will carry over versus a drop off. But you're right, there could be some drop off for some guys, particularly individuals with the wrong mindset, maybe coming in as well. All right, Kev, let's wrap this up.
All right.
First of all, we'll be back next week to break down the first couple days of the season. We'll be talking about Fantasy Stars and
Right.
fantasy.
That'll be the Easter version of the fantasy baseball.
You're right.
show.
It will be. And no, not next week. That's 2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks. Oh, Easter's 2 weeks. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. You scared me there for a minute. As a pastor,
Okay.
you're thinking,
Yeah,
wait a second, that's not the
make sure
sermon,
you're
right?
on the right clock.
Okay,
So,
yeah, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. But
Okay.
but great stuff. We'll be talking. We'll be actually talking real baseball come Sunday. Next Sunday, we'll be talking about things that actually happened in real baseball. So that's going to be a blast. We'll start giving you add and drop suggestions. We'll start talking about again fantasy superstars and fantasy flubs as well, and we'll continue to bring a guest each week. Also, visit righteousfelon.com. Visit MahlerBros.com. Same promo code for both websites, Belly Up. You're going to get 15% off your purchase at either of those websites. Make sure you also visit BellyUpFantasySports.com for all your fantasy needs there as well. He's Kevin Wilson. You can find him at Kevin62, WILSEA on Twitter. I'm Vince Stover. You can find me at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram as well. Any closing remarks, Kevin?
Well, yeah, you didn't mention about the Belly Up Super Show. Coming up on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right, where we're going to be talking real live baseball, not fantasy so much, but
man, I'm so glad.
So we're going to have guys that are going to be coming on and talking about. We're going to review all the divisions and see what we got as far as baseball is concerned. And so I'm pretty jazzed up about that. And I will have an article coming out that's the post-draft pickups article, which will probably feature the rookies that we've talked about earlier on, plus some other guys, because there are guys that are hurt. As we talked about, Severino, hurt. Hoskins, hurt. Altuve, hurt. And so you might have guys on your team that are going on the IL. Who are you going to pick up? I'm going to answer that question.
Yeah.
in my next article.
Great. Find that on bellyupfantasysports.com. And I'm so glad you brought up the Super Show Tuesday, 8 o'clock on Belly Up Sports YouTube page. We'll be live there previewing the season, getting us ready for opening day. We'll have several personalities from Belly Up Sports on the show to talk about and preview different things. We're going to bring on our injury expert as well throughout at the middle of the show to talk about some of the injuries that have happened and get you prepared and ready for what is ahead, get you all knowledgeable on those things too. So, Kevin, thank you for remembering that. I can't believe I forgot it.
So, well, I don't know when Easter is, so I guess we're helping each other out there.
Yeah, so I pay Kevin the big bucks. All right, friends, thanks for tuning into today's edition of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.